Hello and welcome to Maverrik Live. I am Luke 2 and today I am joined by
Terry Heath. Nice to be with you, Luke.
Fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about how to properly guide a team. And as you can see by the graphic on there, you said it looked like the A
It's
team.
the A team, definitely.
Which is kind of what we had starting out in Maverrik. Before we got into any of our growth, we had pretty much an A team, which is consistent of a few people who were dedicated to certain areas.
Yeah.
So you had one design person, you had one person for a copy, one person for this, that, and the other, and we was creating that synergy, and that was like the team, that was our A team.
Yeah.
And we kind of learned then how to push that forward. But then as we grew on, we realized that we needed, we couldn't just rely on one person to do it all. We had to create like this network of people who could help us with these bigger jobs.
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of asking you today, because every time something happens in the office, we're like, dear Terry, can you sort this out? Is how do we properly guide that team forwards?
Yeah, well, I suppose in the history as we are as an organization, we had the benefit of being the small team at the beginning where you literally could shout across the desk and get the communication going. Now we're a much bigger team. So it's about making sure all of those individuals that have an investment in that particular project or that particular task are involved with it, or else you lose the communication. You get, someone starts going, why didn't you ask me?
Yeah.
And it all starts to break down. So it takes a little bit more work being in it. But, key is making sure that those, as I just said, that have that vested interest are around the table and having the conversation. Making sure that that communication actually works, almost fluidly. So whether that's actual meeting in person when we can, or it's by email or those video calls that we're also used to now, that the communication is key to what's happening.
Exactly, because obviously with the current situation right now, it's keeping that kind of communication going, and you don't know when an email is going to work. So you kind of need a little bit higher stakes now, because we've got obviously you've got WhatsApp groups, you've got calls that we can make. So it's keeping that communication flowing, and it's kind of a redundant thing to say, oh, you need to make sure you've got communication, because it's obvious you need to keep people going on. But it's the amount and the amount of detail you can, portray in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, and I think that's key as well, what you say, which is that there are a lot of communication tools you can use, but it's within any organization is deciding which ones you use for what purpose. So if I want somebody just quickly, or it's not urgent, but if I can get a response, great, I'll use WhatsApp, quick message. If it's more detailed and I need attachments, so if I'm going to use email. But if it's something where, 2 or 3 people are involved in this conversation, let's get on a video call and actually talk it through. And so it's making sure you're using the right tools for the right job. Too many times, we all know it's like you send the email and someone writes it in such a way, but somebody else perceives it differently when they receive it. And so you've got to make sure your communication is good and thorough.
So when obviously sometimes projects, they can grow into these massive amalgamations of different things. When you bring someone else into a project who now has a stake in it, it's a tough thing to do, because one, you have to make sure they're fully addressed from everything that happened. All the history is there as well, which can be hard to do. What would you think is the most important aspect if you was bringing in someone into a project an existing project?
Yeah, well, as you inferred there, which is knowing the background of that project, how it came about, start point to where it is now, understanding the history of that project, doesn't matter really how long it's been going on, but that is important, so the person has the context for what's going forward. Understanding what the client wants, understanding what the client's aims are, and knowing what we would deliver as a company are all key into that.
Yeah, we've got also what we do is make sure everyone in the business is aware of what projects are floating around, just in case anything appears which it might be suited to someone's specialities. Because everyone who obviously works at Maverrik, we're all unique in what we know and what we've learned in our experiences. And sometimes you can draw upon them during a project to help you out in small bits. Yeah. So what we do in the morning, isn't it, is we have these morning meetings to address everything that's happening.
Yeah, so every morning we'll talk openly about all the different things, and people hear, even if they're not involved in it, they get to hear about it, they know it. So they've got a reference point throughout their day when it comes up in conversation. What is this thing? What are we talking about? They have some idea about it. Now, they don't need to be involved in the project, but as you said, if they are pulled into it, then they're already up to speed because they've tracked it just through general conversation and through the morning meetings.
Yeah, it's a great way of doing it. A lot of the time, it can be lost in small talks, and as the business grows, with some things it doesn't need to be addressed to. But you can't really be picky with information. I'd say you should probably give as much as possible out there if you want to make sure everyone's working towards the same goal. Because at the end of the day, you all want to achieve that end.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the end of a project, or if it's a certain goal or task. So in terms of then, if you're delegating that tasks, what do you look for when it comes to?
Well, you delegate to strengths is the first thing. Depending what the project is and the different skill elements that you need, you look for the people who've got those skills and put them in there. Obviously, you still want to leave you want to leave space for people to grow and develop within the opportunities as well. But make sure the right people are doing the right jobs. There's nothing worse than handing over a task within a project to somebody who isn't suitably qualified, and they're struggling on, and that will actually slow down the whole project. Yeah. Make sure the right people are in the right place, make sure that they're up to speed, make sure that they've got the communication, they've got the tools they need to do the job, just to keep the wheels running on the project.
Yeah, some projects have some great opportunities for someone who may be now not experienced with that topic or with that side of a business to kind of step into it. Because not all projects are like the big be-all, end-all projects, the big dogs that come in. Some of them can be, some lighter, just overall slow progression one.
Yeah.
But you can help use those to train more people into those sections.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the projects we do, there is always an opportunity for someone to essentially have a go. Obviously, you release that responsibility to them with limits and guidance on it, so that they don't go and run themselves into trouble. But as long as you're confident that that person can stretch that little bit further, learn that new skill, add on to what they already know.
It's what we've done, like with all of these live sessions. I've introduced loads of members of the team now who probably have zero experience on with the camera, with the live shows, maybe answering questions and being sort of put on the spot. Because that's kind of what I do. I don't just put people on the spot. It's like, hey, I've got a topic and I want to delve into this, and I go, right, give me the answer.
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
Yeah, because this is all unscripted. We haven't come in here and said, right, this is exactly what we're going to say. We have the conversation around it. So it does get you thinking, it does get you playing, and as you say, it gives people to grow into something that they've probably never done before.
Yeah, I think it also gives you more confidence in what you're talking about and discussing. Because I was talking to a lot of people, and you can tell when someone's not as confident on camera, because they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to say something wrong, or if I'm going to, a lot of the time it could be swearing, but oh no, I might just say the F-bomb randomly because it's in my repertoire. But it does reaffirm that you know more than you think you know. And I think that confidence and building that confidence is a good way to creating an established team who are happy to step forward when something goes wrong and says, I have this knowledge I can bring to the table and I can help you with this.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just rely on the team leader to go, okay, this is the project I want to go on. If a person in charge is always in charge constantly and always creating all the answers, then you just kind of got a machine, you don't have a team.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I think it's just giving people opportunity to move into things. It's not always the same person that leads and pushes a project forward is important, because if you want growth within any company, you've got to give people opportunity. And in truth, you've almost got to be open to the possibility that they will fail.
Yeah.
But you create an environment within your company where it's safe to fail, is probably the best way of putting it. So if it fails, we all work together to put it right. That means then that the lesson can be learned and that person goes on to be stronger in the future, rather than it failed, you're out of here.
Yeah, it's pressure to create diamonds rather than pressure to create volcanoes.
Good way of putting it, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming down.
It's been good.
I think I'm actually got a break on Friday. I think Dean's actually going to take some charge and going to go with, that sounded really bad. Dean and Martin are going to be here talking about finding value. I can tell that you've got some more talking in you, because you've got a Win Your Next Client on LinkedIn event.
I have, 2 o'clock today.
2 o'clock today. If you
want to sign up, go to Eventbrite, find us and join us.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for coming down, Terry.
It's been good.
And thank you, everyone who is watching this, maybe on a replay, maybe not. This has been Maverrik Live. Have a wonderful rest of your day.